am here with our guest tonight, Michelle Barnum Smith, who is a dating coach. Well, sort of. She really is a 15-year corporate marketing veteran who applied the principles of marketing to her own dating life and got married, which is called closing the deal. Michelle now teaches other singles, like myself, how to find love by applying marketing to their dating lives. Michelle has been featured on Forbes, Business Insider, The Examiner, ExpertBeacon.com, and on several TV and radio shows around the country. So please welcome Michelle Barnum Smith to The Crystal Show.
Hello. Thanks for that warm welcome. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, you know what, Michelle? I am single. So
Excellent.
I have had many ins and outs of the relationship world, and quite frankly, it's a little frustrating. And I have thought, how can I just give this guy, instead of having a stream of first dates, which I am really an expert in, how can I just give this guy a application, tell him to fill it out, tell him to get back with me, someone will be calling you to set up an interview. Help me.
Oh, geez, I know, right? Wouldn't it be just so much easier?
I think it would be. So tell us about your personal experience. You said that you used this. You used your marketing experience and probably came to the same conclusions I did. Like, there's got to be a better way here.
Yeah, exactly. And, I kind of laugh when people call me a dating expert because I'm really not. Like, I'm a marketing expert. My whole background is like you were saying, like 15 years in marketing. I've made a lot of money for some really big companies. Let's just say that. And my personal story was that I was single for a lot of years, and living a single life, had the career and all that fun stuff. And I had, I had one of those moments where I was like, something's got to give. Like what you were saying, you get so exhausted with it, and
right.
and I finally kind of just stopped and turned around and started applying my success in my professional life and the principles that I had learned and tested and practiced over and over, and started applying it to me, in my single career, as I called it, my dating career.
Right.
Because it takes so much work,
Well, you know what? It is work. And, when we're thinking about work itself, as you were thinking in your marketing career, we know what we have to do. There are steps. There are, if you need a degree for this particular field, I go to college, I do this. Then I know the steps to ace an interview. There are things online I can look at and make sure I say and don't say. And then when I get hired, I know, okay, I got 90 days to get myself together for my probationary period. I have to, wow the boss. And then in other words, there are steps I can do. But in love, what in the world? It's just a crapshoot. And
that's what it appears to be,
Yeah.
That's really what it appears to be. And even worse, relatively sane and logical people, such as yourself, and others too are out there, go from being these logical people to these emotionally, strung out drama, all of a sudden we become these crazy people, and usually when I tell people where they have to start with marketing is they have to start with giving up the mindset. You have to start with your mindset towards dating. And a lot of people have the mindset of finding somebody, love, all of these things. It's up to chance. It's up to the universe. It's up to God. It's up to my mom, you know. I don't know. But they just basically, they go from being logic-based individuals who follow steps and, you know, reach goals in every other aspect of their life to just kind of leaving the most important aspect of their life up to chance. They do what I call hope dating. They go to a party and they hope that they meet someone. They meet someone and they hope he calls.
Right.
They go out together and they hope this works out. So they don't actually employ any real steps or process. They just kind of like hope and of course worry and analyze and talk to your mom and talk to your girls and, you know, all of these things and become a crazy person, right? And so the first thing you have to do is shift away from that hope-based, you know, dating effort to a more purposeful effort. You know, for example, like I just had a baby, I have some weight to lose, you know, and I can't just hope that weight away. I wish I could say my prayers at night and please bless Heavenly Father will take this fat away. You know, it just doesn't work like that. You know, I have to recognize that, like, the change is up to me. It starts with me. It starts with my efforts. But instead of just being like, okay, I am now going to lose weight, I have to identify my game plan. I have to identify what I'm going to do. And there's lots of plans and different things that are out there, obviously. But then I have to actually take those required steps. I can't just read about it and study about it and watch the infomercials and buy the DVDs, right? I have to actually do the work. You know what I mean? So I can't just, you wouldn't hope to lose weight. You wouldn't hope to get a better job or get into a tough grad school program. Dating can't be left up to hope either. And so you have to be purposeful in those actual steps of dating.
Of dating. Okay. All right. So, first of all, that's how I diet.
Please bless.
So that's another show right there. I hope that I lose the weight. But okay, I do want to be committed to finding someone to spend your life with, because that is one of the most, if not the most important relationship and goal for us, and to find the right person. So, okay, we're committed. We're ready to go. We're going to make the effort. What are some of the pitfalls, then, that we should look out for when we're trying to do this? Because my pitfall is I go to the club, or I listen, my girlfriend knows someone, or God forbid, I go online and, you know, and do all that. So what should we watch out for when we do start meeting all these people, these guys?
Yeah, so it's really common either like when you've reached your lowest low of loneliness, or, you know, you're sick and tired of seeing your friends happy, but you're not. You know, we all reach this point where we're like, okay, I am now making an effort. We have this realization. We have this like wake-up call kind of a thing. And you have this like, I am now making an effort statement moment. And suddenly you're everywhere. You're social. You're going to all the parties. You have the, like you said, you go online. Maybe you're trying the dating apps. You're on Tinder. You're even asking people for setups. Like, it's the works. You've got everything going. And for a while, like, you're really busy. You've got, maybe you're meeting people. You're going on dates. Pretty soon you're in a relationship. And then inevitably that relationship ends. And at the end of all of this expended effort, you're just still exhausted. You're out of balance. You're jaded, you're bitter, depressed, you know, you name the description, you feel it. You remove yourself from the dating realm, because obviously you need to take a break from dating. I'm sure you've never said that phrase. I need to eat more ice
cream, and I need more cheesecake. Okay,
and
this will definitely help me.
That the weight will.
Yeah. So now I'm fat and single, and depressed. Oh God!
All of these things, and so we take a break, and then inevitably we have our wake-up call again, and we make that. I am now making an effort statement yet again, and the cycle starts all over again. And the difference between, and I call this the feast or famine of method to dating, and it's really exhausting, because you're taking all of this, all of your spare time, all of your effort, you're like, you know, obsessed with it in your head, all of these things, and so at the end of it, you're just like, there's nothing left to give. There's nothing left to do, and you're you don't know
Right.
what to do anyway. You're just exhausted, and your friends are exhausted from hearing about all the drama, and your parents are pretty sure that, they're going to have to put you in a home somewhere. I don't know. So anyway.
You're alone. Yeah.
So the point is that, my approach to dating, what I realized is that I needed a plan-based effort to dating. I needed like a step-by-step approach to dating. And sometimes when people hear me say that, they're like, oh my gosh, please don't. You're asking me to work even harder. And that's not the case. I'm not asking you to work harder. I'm asking you to work smarter. And there's a difference between those two, because we're making decisions that are based on logic, not loneliness. Because when we're coming from that place of loneliness, we get all sorts of desperate, right? We get all sorts of instincts where we're throwing ourselves, doing things, dating people that we probably shouldn't be doing. And really what it comes down to is that a plan-based approach to dating is sustainable. It works with your lifestyle, like you can still work and date at the same time, fixed price. You're more balanced, and it's more efficient because you know what you're doing. You know that you can, walk into a party, meet a couple guys, you know the steps to take to get them to ask you out, these kinds of things. And so you're more confident, you're more relaxed. And I don't know about you, but I think being confident and relaxed is actually really attractive. Because, have you ever been around a desperate person and thought, oh, that's really attractive?
Right, you're pacing in front of the phone, or you're pacing in front of, now we have so many ways to be rejected. We got the phone,
right.
We have email, he's not returning my email, and he's not messaging me back on Facebook, and what do I do?
Well, that picture that he's tagged in with that girl. Oh
I know, who is she? Find out later it's his sister.
Right, that's not crazy at all. That's crazy at all.
So as a plan, so we need a plan.
Right.
What are some of the steps? Now does some of the plans start with the first dates? Is it okay to go out and find a date your usual way, or should that be a plan within itself?
So even before we get out and start meeting people, because that's where people think they got to start. All right, I've got to go to the club, or I got to go to the
I got to get back out there.
Right, we got to back up. We got to back up a few steps, and this is where my business background really comes into play, because businesses have the template that we can use for our own personal life. And I learned this for myself. I was at the end of a round the world business trip, which was pretty cool, by the way. And I ended up in Paris on my birthday, and I was completely single in the most romantic city in the world, right? And it just sucks. And it was there that
it sucks.
I know, it does. It did, and that's I think it was like that harsh reality that God was using to have this aha moment where He's like, "Come on, Michelle, let's do these." But it was kind of that aha moment. I had been, on this round the world trip, I had been building marketing plans for businesses all around the world, large and small. It didn't matter the country or the culture, the kind of product, the size of the business. And even this process and these steps work even for celebrities. It works even for individuals. And so as I had that kind of wake-up moment, I realized really when it comes to starting your personal plan, you have to ask yourself 3 questions. You have to ask first, well, what is the product? What is it? We'll get into that in a second. The question is, who is the product best for? And then finally, where are those people? So let's back up a second and talk about my feast or famine approach to dating and how I changed all this with marketing. So obviously, like everybody else, I did this for a lot of years and made zero progress with my dating for a number of reasons. The first was that I wasn't sold on my product. I was trying to get away from me. When I was dating, I was in my place of loneliness, despair, depression, you name it, frustration. I was in why am I single mode. I might have been this cute girl, but I was also really just kind of feeling broken inside and just not loving me. I was also not dating the best audience for my product. I was going for guys who were all wrong for me. I had my list of the things that I wanted, and it was totally unattainable. Like, who could even be all of those check boxes,
That's true. I am looking for Superman, yes.
It's true. Aren't we all?
Right.
I married him. Sorry, ladies. But but the biggest, one of the biggest downfalls is because I, back to that first problem, because I wasn't sold on me. I often took whoever came along. So I got sucked into bad relationships over and over and over again because I wasn't good with me, and so I kept dating the wrong guys. Then the third thing was that I wasn't putting myself in the right places to advertise to the best audience. So I was social. I would go out and do things on the weekends, but they were the same things over and over and over again. I was kind of stuck in my comfort zone socially, and I was hanging out with the same people and doing the same things, and I wasn't putting myself in the right places to actually meet the kind of person I wanted to be with. And because I wasn't actually finding them, then back to that second problem, I was just taking whoever would take me, It kind of backed into it. So you see, we can't just start with advertising. We can't just start with, what am I going to do this weekend? You have to back up a few steps. And so what I had to do, how I used marketing to get me married, that's the name of my business, is Marketing to Marriage, was I had to get good with my product first. I had to understand what I had to offer, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I had to get good with that. So I had to kind of have this, come to Jesus with myself, where I was just like, all right, let's pull back the covers, and what are those things that I can improve? What are those things that I can't change, and, it's kind of that the serenity prayer a little bit, help me to identify those things I can change, and help me to, change the things I can't, or whatever, the backwards.
Right.
Anyway, you know what I mean. But it's that whole idea of I had to embrace me, and I had to be sold on me first. And this is really critical, because if you wouldn't buy what you're selling, why would somebody else?
You know what? That's really true. And when we date, we tend to change anyway. We put on a facade of who we are. We forget about what we really like, our quirkiness, our geekiness, or whatever that we're into, and we focus on just really the facade, the physical. We get our hair done, we may lose a few pounds, we may do whatever, but we still don't attract the people we really like. Like, do you like this person? Yes, he looks good, but are you really compatible? Does he get into what you are into, or does he laugh at it? Like, oh my God, you're attracted. That's so geeky. And so there's things like that I think we start out with we're not even present in the dating process until we think we have them, and I think for both people that ends up happening. And so that's when you get to the third month or 6th month or whatever of a relationship, and you go, wow, who the heck are you?
Right. Now imagine, instead of putting up all those facades and all of those efforts to protect yourself or to try to be something, to snag somebody, imagine just being comfortable in your own skin, being attractive because you're confident and comfortable and relaxed, and having somebody choose you because of you and not because of what you're trying to be for them. Which is why you have to.
That's what I do. Yeah, I'm guilty of that, and probably so many women and men probably are guilty of that.
Yeah, because we want that attention, we want that affection, but we have to get it from ourselves first. Otherwise, we become we get this insatiable need for somebody's, affection, attention, and validation. And newsflash, they're never going to have enough of that for us. If we can't get it from ourselves, we're never going to be able to get it from somebody else. So that's why this is the first step. It's not trying to identify, well, who's the best audience, and then how can I create a product for that audience? It's am I happy with me? And then it's, all right, well, who is best for what I have to offer? Who's the best audience for me? And that, that takes some soul searching. That takes some honesty on your part to review your past experiences, past relationships, past dates, and identify maybe some of those negative patterns that you get sucked into. Maybe those guys who are just all bad, but you just can't stay away from them, kind of thing.
Right.
And even more, back to that whole list thing that we have, getting really clear on, I personally had to ditch the list and get really clear on what was most important to me. What were those core things that I had to have? And really, girl, there were only 4 of them. He had to be kind. He had to love Jesus. He had to be a hard worker, and he had to be attractive to me. Those were my core 4. And anything besides that was like a bonus. You know, I was just like, oh, yay, look at all this other fun stuff. But those core 4, I realized, were the most important things. And I also realized that when I got clear on my list, all of a sudden, guys became a lot more clear to me. There were guys that I hadn't considered. There were some really great people in my life that I hadn't considered. There were some guys that I would never have considered, that all of a sudden I was just like, oh, well, hey, you know. And there were some guys that I would always have gone for that didn't meet a single thing on the list, that I was just like, all right, accountability time. I got to be honest with myself and be like, these are not, they might be fun for a moment, but they're going to cause me drama in the long term, and I got to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's the hardest thing to do, I think, because we're so used to doing it the other way, you know, the hope way. Yeah. And failing at it, and what is the definition of insanity? You know, doing something the same way over and over again and expecting a different result. You know, and that's what we do.
Yep. Yeah. So the final step I had to do to change, and like after I got clear on my list, like that was when I was finally ready to start socializing with purpose. You know, I was trying to think, okay, with these 4 qualities in mind, where would be the best place to intersect with this kind of person that I want to be with? Not just doing what's going on the weekend because it's something to do, not just going out with my friends, you know, to the party or the club or whatever was going on because that's what all there was to do. I was like, honestly, I had to ditch some of my friends. I had to, like, okay, you know, thanks, but no thanks. I'm growing old with you guys and not in the kind of way that I want to. You know, I had to break free from kind of that social rut, and I had to think, okay, this kind of guy that I want to be with, where is he most likely to be found? And I had to consider activities that I normally would not do, from online dating to, like, you know, honestly, I met my husband at a rodeo of all the awesome, crazy things. I met him at a rodeo.
Was he on the horse?
Oh my gosh, he was not on the horse, but he was wearing a cowboy hat. It was pretty sexy. But like, I would never have considered him. But I finally had like eyes to see, you know. And I also like just really got strategic with the use of my time. I wasn't just doing things to do them. I was like, you know what? If I go to that party, it's the same old people, it's the same old things. I'm choosing not to. And it was actually really liberating because it kind of gave me permission to do other things with my time. If it wasn't going to be, you know, if it wasn't going to help me make progress in my dating life, I could reorganize my time to spend it doing something else. Maybe, you know, sort of praying for my fat to melt. Maybe I could go running or something, you know. Like, I could reuse my time in a more productive manner for the rest of my life. And the results truly is that, like, I knew that I was good for me when I had kind of this moment of true contentment with myself. I was with some friends coming back from California on a road trip, and I just had this really peaceful, like, contentment. Not this kind of crazy, lonely panic that sometimes,
right, because you didn't meet the person, so you totally wasted time, but you didn't because it wasn't that wasn't the only reason you were there.
Right, exactly. And so that moment of true contentment, it was kind of one of those. It was kind of like that moment that I knew I had arrived. I wasn't perfect, but I was okay with that. I was finally okay with what I had to offer, and not in a false, like, you know, bravado kind of way, because we can be confident but not really mean it, you know. But like, it's a true, like, and you know when you're around that kind of person that's like good in their space, because you feel comfortable there, you know. And I had finally felt comfortable there. And like moments after that, I think it was probably like within a week or two that I got clear on what I needed from a partner. You know, what I was really looking for, that's those 4 things that I told you. And then literally 2 weeks later, I went to that rodeo and I met him, and it was like clockwork. Like, we were engaged 6 months later, it was just one of those things where it just happened, and it wasn't, and there was no hope involved. There was prayer, I'm not saying that God's not a part of that process, but sure. I was working to make sure that I was the right person, pursuing the best person, and putting myself in the right place to actually be that person.
It's like you got out of your own way.
Yeah.
And allowed yourself to live, to breathe, to enjoy. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. And that is like the best advice ever. And even though the things that you mentioned, hope dating, what we all do, to purposeful effort dating, I think that alone really says it all right there, because that's really where we are. We're in this fantasy, and we're in a fantasy of watching maybe our friends who met somebody in high school and they got married, and then and they went to college, now they have kids, and and you're like, well, then why didn't that happen to me? So something must be wrong with me. And so you spend so much time thinking you're the worst thing ever because you couldn't find somebody, so you try to become something else instead of getting in touch with you. And I love the way you put that and wrote it out, and that's really it. Yeah. It seems so
simple. And to your point, I use dating for validation for a lot of years, and it's really easy to do when you're not in a good place yourself, when you're wondering that question, what's wrong with me? Any attention that you can get is kind of proof that you personally use, to prove to yourself and to others, hey, maybe I'm not broken, hey, maybe it is working. But every time you do that, that relationship is inevitably going to end, and you're going to end up right back at that same place of wondering what's wrong with me,
Exactly.
You got to get with you first. That's the first step, is quit, by all means, don't take yourself off the market and think, okay, I'm now working on myself, That's not
which is what we do, too, yeah.
Even businesses have to get the product out there. You have the smartphone that's always updating its apps, there's no perfect iteration of ourselves. And so you got to get out there and get experience so that you can, work with something. But you have to start long before you get to, well, where's the best place to meet somebody? Well, how about the mirror? The mirror is the first place.
All right. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on to the show and giving us some amazing insight in things that we should know, but we need to hear it, we need to apply it, and we need to work the goal, work the dream, because, it's so hard, and like we said in the beginning, it gets so frustrating. Now, I went to your site, of course, Marketing to Marriage, and there are an amazing amount of articles and blogs about different types of dating and issues and things like that. So tell us how we can get in touch with you through social media and other ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of people worry that they have to have some sort of marketing background to be able to learn how to market themselves, but it's not true. I offer a 5-week course that people can just do online, Instead of a book, it's a course that they have access to, and there's homework assignments and all sorts of fun stuff, because I'm a nerd like that. But it's usually $197, but through the weekend, for the next 3 days, it's only $97. So if what I've said to you today rings true, if you are having that aha moment of, I am now ready to get started on working on, I will now work on myself, This is the step-by-step process, that I went through, that I've taken multitudes of clients through, and it goes over those steps of how to get good with yourself, how to identify who's really best for you, how to know where those people actually are, and then a few bonuses like how to actually sell yourself, how do you flirt, how do you get through those first dates, what do you do, when he doesn't call, how do you stay on track with your with your time and your efforts, so you're not pushing yourself so hard that you burn out and crash and burn, that kind of a thing. So if people are interested in learning more about that or getting started with that, they can go to marketingtomarriage.com and click on the Marketing Marriage Program link that I have there in my menu. And just like you said, there's tons of blogs on there. I blogged today about the dating cycle that we get stuck in, that we've talked a bunch about. And then I'm on all the usual suspects for social media. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, and for all of you uber geeks out there, LinkedIn and Google Plus, I'm out there too. So,
Well, you know what? It is so much information, and you just have to go to her site to get all of that information, and it is amazing. Oh, yeah, and definitely we have the weekend, so what a perfect time to not go to the club, but let's learn something.
Well, go to the club, get frustrated, and then realize, oh my gosh, I need to figure out what the crap is going on. We got to stop this nonsense. So, by all means, don't take yourself off the market. Crystal, go to the club this weekend. Don't go with your same group, mix it up a little bit.
Mix it up, exactly. That's what I need to do. I have hit a plateau, okay? Definitely. Well, thank you so much, everybody. It is Michelle Barnum Smith, and she is the dating expert, even though she doesn't want to be called that. That's what she is. So thanks so much for coming on to the show. And, guys, go and find out how to meet that right person the right way.